Don't give out a no trade clause to somebody who you have even a 1% chance of trading. I remember when I heard about that, I think it was Bobby Marks who initially reported the no trade clause. And before Bobby reported it, I had a source hit me up when Brad signed that contract last year and said to me, there's no trade clause in there. And it was a really good source. If it was and I was like, this is, I believed it 100%. And honestly, I considered just running with the report off of the one source. And I was like, I just, it is the literal definition of unbelievable to me. I was like, there's just, you messed something up. There's no way there was a no trade clause in this thing when at the time nobody in the league had a no trade clause. I just couldn't believe there being a no trade clause. I knew he was going to get the max. I knew he was going to get every cent, but I had no idea the no trade clause was coming. And Bobby got it out there before me because I was just like, you know what? I don't believe it. Yeah, I don't believe it. I just can't. I just can't believe it. That's why. This is why I couldn't believe it, because Bradley Beal can say, I want to go to Phoenix. And now he's in Phoenix, and that trade does not happen without the no trade clause. I had heard in the days leading, like the 24 to 48 hours or so before the trade actually happened, I think Brad always had an eye on Miami. That was just always the case. Even when he elected to stay in Washington, he always had an eye on Miami. He always, every summer he'd spend time mulling his future and all that. And he ended up always choosing to go back to Washington. But Miami was always like, should I try for Miami? Is that something that you should really go for? And there was never a list, but I always felt like if there were a list, Miami was going to be number one on the list. And obviously Miami was very in contention for this. It might have been number one, but the Suns pursued him so aggressively in those 24 to 48 hours before the trade landed. I think it really swayed him. I think it really swayed his family. His wife is from the West Coast. It gets them closer to there. He had always, talked about family wise, just kind of a warm weather place, and obviously gives him an opportunity to win. So I did not expect the Suns to be into it coming into this thing, but man, the Wizards getting just nothing back for him because of that no trade clause is mind boggling, considering I remember writing when I was covering the Wizards. I remember writing about how, if the Wizards were going to trade him now, Drew Holiday just went for 973 first-round picks.
Right.
Unprotected swaps. Bradley Beal at the time was considered a way better player than Drew Holiday and was not on this massive contract that he's on yet. I mean, it was relatively team-friendly. I think he was making 36 a year at the time. And the Wizards just weren't even having it. They weren't taking calls. They weren't doing anything. And they put themselves in a position. I know it's a new front office, but it's the same ownership. It's the same ownership that was saying they have to go for the 8th seed, that was saying they have to hold on to Beal, that allowed for these contracts to come out with Ted Leonsis there. And this is what happens. I can't really think of an all-star trade situation. I mean, maybe there was one that was handled worse. It's very possible, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.